we're going to bring up on the stage a really interesting panel. It's moderated by Victoria, who is a well-known journalist from Forbes, and a number of great, exciting brands who are all thinking about the cloud and what is going on with that. So without further ado, I bring you our partner panel.
Let's do it. I will sit here.
Difficult job of competing with lunch. But I think we're all up to the task. Aaron certainly is up to the task. I was going to go down the line here and have you all introduce yourselves and give us a sense of why you're here.
Sure. Okay, this is on. Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Holden, and I head up product marketing for the Sales Cloud at Salesforce. And we're here because we had an exciting announcement today with Box.net where we've integrated our social collaboration product Chatter with Box. And so we're big proponents of openness, and that's one of the big reasons why we're here today.
Great. Javier?
I'm Javier Soltero, CTO of Software as a Service and Applications for VMware. And we also have been doing some great work with Box.net around identity management and mobile, and just very excited to be here.
I'm Stanek, founder, CEO of GoodData. GoodData is a cloud-based business intelligence tool. So for us, Box.net is one of our partners for data, both data source, also way how to get data out to customers.
Scott McMullan, a product manager at Google Enterprise. We have a apps marketplace, and Box.net is one of our best partners. So absolutely happy to be here and be able to share some stories and talk to you guys.
Appreciate that, Scott. And I'm Aaron Levy, CEO and co-founder of Box. I had to be here, so that's why I'm on this panel. So sort of.
So I wanted to first ask you guys a question that might inform our conversation a little bit, and mainly because I'm curious. Of those of you in the audience, could you raise your hand if you're going to be here next week for this thing Oracle is hosting, small gathering? So just a couple of you.
You guys are going to have a great time.
Is someone making you go? Oh, there are others. They don't want to raise their hands. That's sad for them. I ask it because I'm curious how much of you are sort of dealing with lots of different, being in two worlds, the legacy software world and then this new thing we call the cloud. And with that, talk to you guys and your mix of startups as well as some larger firms. He's wearing suits and he's wearing slacks because he works at a big company.
Yeah, we're sort of like the study in contrasts.
Yeah, he works at a big company.
Vintage Box.net shirt here, so I got a pass.
Oh, wow, that's good.
So what do you think the big companies, and please do name names, are doing right in this opportunity called the cloud? And then we'll talk about what you think they're missing.
Me first?
Yeah, I'll look at you. I'm looking at you.
Okay.
Let's go with you.
What are they doing right? Well, some companies, large established ISVs, are taking the cloud seriously and embracing it more as an opportunity than rather as a threat. And I think really that's the big difference, right? If you're going to be defensive about what the cloud represents to the business that you're in today and say, oh, okay, well, it's a threat to my license revenue, it's a threat to the way the customer consumes my product, and your reaction is likely to start by disparaging the cloud as a fad or doing any number of things that are going to suggest that that's just something that isn't going to affect your business in any way. The smarter businesses, both in the ISV world as well as even in the consumers of technology, are saying, hey, this is important as client server is often the prior giant shift that the enterprise references when they look at the cloud. From what it represented, from the way they were purchasing and consuming technology. Say, if this is that big a shift, then we really need to be in front of this. And rather than expect the adoption of all of these new and exciting products to happen in the dark corners of the IT world, let's be forward-thinking and actually set up policies and build out the infrastructure that's going to allow people to consume this more readily. Not everybody's doing that. Some IT people are still caught in the, hey, it really bugs me that departments are adopting, products like Box and others, including Salesforce, et cetera, without consulting with IT. And what they're not really tapping into is the fact that they probably are doing that because whatever IT is providing them likely sucks.
Right, right. Well, they're living, but I mean, what you point to also is just there are a lot of companies that are in a heterogeneous environment, and they're going to be there for a while.
Everybody except a startup lives in a heterogeneous environment, and there's no such thing as a clean slate in IT. It'd be interesting to consider how these people would make a decision if they had all of the enterprise requirements but had nothing in place to defend them, whether they would make the same kind of decisions.
Right, right.
Yeah, I actually disagree. I believe that big companies, and I would use SAP as an example. They actually believe that my impression is that they believe that cloud will disappear in a couple of years, like utility computing didn't actually materialize, and grid computing and so on. And if you look at the biggest announcement from SAP over the last 5 years, it's the new Hasso-Plattner architecture, HANA. It's actually on-premise piece of hardware. So I actually believe that for them, cloud is something that will actually not be that important.
So where they're actually putting their...
No, it's not even appliance. It's literally a computer.
So where they're putting their money is not...
Yeah, exactly, absolutely.
Is not cloud
the biggest,
versus where
they are betting the farm on on-premise hardware.
Right, right. What do you think?
I think the biggest thing that I've seen is just acknowledgement. And I think just a couple of years ago, we weren't seeing that from some of the largest players. Now, our CEO likes to joke about the cloud sticker on these big boxes that we see out there. At least people are talking about it and trying to embrace it, either with ad campaigns or thinking about strategies. And I think that's different from where we were just a couple of years ago.
Right, right. We mentioned, you brought up the issue of living in this heterogeneous world and integration. And the legacy software world, data is very siloed, and there's this promise that we all go to the cloud and data is liberated and it dances around and it's happy. And
magical rainbow, remember?
That magical rainbow, yes.
It wasn't dancing things.
I'm a little skeptical. I tend to think that the cloud presents lots of opportunities, but also some challenges in data being in sort of like not silos, but it's still in different systems. Mm-hmm. How are you all at your companies addressing that issue for customers?
Well, I mean, let me just, I'll say from the meta standpoint, because we work with Salesforce and VMware and Google and GoodData, we all have web services and APIs that let our systems talk to each other. And that is, it's not a closed off thing. You don't have to go through some 10-step program to be able to learn what our APIs are. And to be kind of completely certified. We want these things to be open, and we want as much innovation to happen on top of Box. And a big part of that is making sure that our customers can actually integrate these technologies together on their own. And maybe not necessarily on their own, but at least being able to have system integrators or other people that are going to be able to do that and build that value. So I'd actually say from a technology paradigm standpoint, things have dramatically changed in the past 5 or 10 years that makes this possible. Whereas you wouldn't have been able to build these connections seamlessly in an on-premise world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the web is the world's biggest platform. It's just true. It's built on open standards. It's built on the fact that you've got a playing field of technology that makes things happen quickly, and we have this beautiful environment where we can actually deliver an integrated experience. Both those silos can break down, but also the UI can break down. Right? The UI doesn't have to be 2 tabs in a browser. You can have integrated menus, integrated workflows. Everything can be integrated, and that's what the web gives us. So we take advantage of it because that's what customers want.
Mm-hmm. And how does customization change or not change in this wonderful world you're describing? Scott?
Let's see. So I think one interesting thing is that you shouldn't need someone said, I forget out there in the internets, that you shouldn't need the definition of an open API is you don't need a biz dev person to go get it. So, when we've got 350 plus businesses integrating with Google Apps in the course of a year and a half, they've done it because they haven't talked to me or my team. They've done it because we say these are the APIs. This is the paradigm we understand as developers, and here's the business model for marketing and for customer awareness. It's called the marketplace, and we put those two together and things move quickly.
We do call Scott weekly though, so
yes.
We're the one exception to that rule.
So it moves quickly, and people use the things, the same technologies people are innovating in games and social, they're using to build really cool stuff for businesses. So it's just a much more rich environment.
I think actually, I mean, the most sort of stark example of this actually does come from the consumer space, where, you know, like, I mean, it's a sort of a stretch example, but Zynga's been able to build $1 billion business, you know, integrated on top of the you know, the Facebook platform, and that is the power of web services and web APIs that makes that possible. So if you now translate that to the enterprise, that means that Box and GoodData can work together, where people can actually, you know, create business intelligence on top of the information and the events on top of Box in a very, very seamless way.
I actually spent 5 years of my life working in my previous startup, building, you know, together with the rest of the industry, a integration technology called SOA that actually completely ignored the web, and it was complete failure. You know, we built a complete, you know, beautiful stack of protocols called WS star, and it was supposed to connect any company to any company, and nobody's using it. So I think that, you know, one of the you know, things that you see here is that we all use the web as underlying integration technology because of the web openness and the scalability. If it works for Zynga and I don't know how many million users, if it works for you know, Gmail and so on, it will definitely work for the rest of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I think we learned a lot from that first go-round,
Yep.
and I think
Yep.
now it's actually working. And you know, at Salesforce, we do about 36 billion transactions a quarter, almost 500 million per day, and over half of those, go through our APIs. So transactions where we're interfacing with other systems. So a solid proof point for, you know, this is happening and it's real.
So one of the reasons that a company like Oracle continues to do as well as it does, despite how long we've been talking about the cloud, is that Oracle has customer data, and a lot of that data is locked inside Oracle. Do you not see lock-in in the cloud, or does lock-in look different?
I would say it looks different. The analogy, and this is one that I think hopefully you know, all of us can agree, is the idea that when the customer doesn't want to trade one version of lock-in for another, right? So cloud notwithstanding, the idea that you say, okay, well, all my database or all my information is today trapped inside of an Oracle database that I have to pay a tremendous amount of money to maintain and manage and all that. The idea that you'd shift that and say, I'm going to go from that into one island of cloud capability, right? I'm say, you know, whether it's Salesforce or any of these, it's unrealistic, right? The customers today are smart enough to anticipate the fact that if they choose to move every single part of their IT infrastructure to some other place and have it be a homogeneous, like non-open solution that is poorly integrated with everything else, they're just going to recreate the problem. They're just going to have maybe different economics or a different consumption model.
Well, and completely separate from the actual sort of data not being able to extend outside of that system is the challenge is when you have something like the Oracle kind of integrated stack, what you then miss is the innovation that's going to happen on each layer of that stack in the marketplace. Because Oracle is only incented to make everything work together, not necessarily to have to compete with individual players in the space. And so all their time goes into that side of the problem, versus each of our companies, we play some horizontal role, whether it's through email or business intelligence or CRM, or connecting those things together. We can each innovate on those various dimensions, and that's actually how you get better value from these products. And that's how we're able to kind of rapidly stay ahead of the market. Because we're completely, entirely, 100% focused on that area of value.
And I would argue that a silo is a good thing, right? You have a grain silo because you want to store some grain. When you want to get it out and take it to market, you have an easy way to get it out, and you take it to market. So to the extent that the silo is, you know, porous how you need it to be, and so you can get stuff in and out, and, you know, it's when you move things out, it's not kind of held hostage. A silo is a value.
It's that last part that ends up being irresistible for most software vendors. The idea that in order to defend your long-term relevance in the eyes of the customer, that you have to do things that go counter to this idea that, you know, choice is the right way to go.
I still believe that, you know, the Oracle control and, let's say, Google or Salesforce control are controls at different level. You know, Oracle controls the IT account. They sell technology to IT departments. They control the account. The IT people only buy from Oracle. There are Oracle shops and so on. You know, these examples are business services. So there is always certain amount of data lock-in. You know, if I use Salesforce, it is going to be difficult for me to move my data to let's say, Sugar CRM, because it's a different business service. but at least I can access the data through APIs. I can actually, it's open, I can actually innovate with integrations and so on. If I use Oracle, I'm IT department, I use the whole stack, and it's not, the data is actually a small part of that control. It's the complete account control that Oracle has in those environments.
And in what you guys are doing, are you finding that that data is relatively easy to access? I mean, to do analysis?
Oh yeah, this is what GoodData is all about, is that's why we were actually born as a company, is that we go to all of those. Every time there's a paradigm shift and data moves someplace else, companies go blind. So my data goes with those business services. So that's what GoodData does, is that we actually connect to a number of APIs, and we actually help companies to get, again, the full picture of what's going on in all of those different data services or business services.
Right. And to the extent that a customer says, you know, it's actually really important for me to be able to get my data out. I've been either burned or held hostage or had bad business results because I had this data that was held hostage. There are, you know, vendors will compete there on features, right? They'll say, you know, not only is it their APIs and their formats, but we'll actually give you export tools that are, you know, high fidelity, that work really just as easy as it was to get the data in, to get the data out. And I think, you know, we had a group called the Data Liberation Front, which is specifically designed to make tools to make it easy to get the data out. And not just lip service, but actually do it in a way that's, we can cite it as a feature. And that, you know, helps us to the extent that customers like that.
Well, and it puts the innovation and the competitiveness on the right playing field, which is about the software and the technology, not who has the data lock-in.
Mm-hmm. Aaron, we met about a year ago, and we wrote about you because mainly I thought the business model was really interesting, the freemium model, and it was a new, at least my view, a really new way of how business software was getting sold and distributed. And I wanted to get your thoughts on kind of how you guys see this space evolving. And Scott, maybe we could start with you, because Google's certainly an interesting example of being, you know, a very large company, but on the enterprise side, probably acting a little bit more like a startup.
Yes. So let's see. In terms of our, we have a,
as he exhales.
Moving very quickly. We have a classic freemium model where we've got a free versions of our Google Apps product, and we've got, you know, paid versions. We've got Salesforces who sell to, you know, mid-market and even on, you know, smaller mid-market and up to enterprise, and we've got channels. So in one sense, it's a classic business model of sales and channels. In the other sense, it's self-service and designed to be easy. So
you think you need both? Kind of the older model, channel model?
Yes. I mean, especially in our case where, you know, when you're moving to an email and collaboration environment and you move to a new one, you've got potentially data migration, you've got, you know, new business practices. So our channel has grown up to serve those needs, and it starts with, you know, hey, this may be scary. There's a data migration that I don't know how to manage for, you know, 500 people, 1,000 people. And then it moves into, okay, now I've got these things in the cloud, and oh, I've got this thing called Box now, and other things, okay, help me make better use of that. So our channel has kind of grown up in the cloud, and it's been, it's really, it's a different type of channel, but it's still a channel.
Right.
I think it depends on the nature of the, to Roman's point, the business service involved, right? There are some things that, especially as you get into larger companies, you only make one email and collaboration decision, or at least historically, certainly with email. A company doesn't have, like, you know, hey, pick your own email. Everybody gets it. You want to use Google Gmail, that's great. You want to use Exchange, that's great. Generally, that's a sort of top-down mandated decision.
The employees are often using
yeah,
Gmail
I mean,
on the side.
Never mind the fact that employees can choose to use different email clients or other things like that. There's a certain class of application that has also been mandated from the top, and oftentimes, for all the wrong reasons, really delivered this kind of dissatisfaction that then leads people to go down to freemium at smaller scales, departments and so forth, to say, hey, I don't like this, you know, and here we can ring a bell, SharePoint, that my IT department... Take a shot. Yeah, that my IT department decided to standardize on. This is a very crappy way for us to share information and collaborate. I found this thing called Box.net. It's wonderful. Let's use that, and we don't have to tell IT about it. So there are some places where the freemium model really works, and I guess my point is that IT is wising up to this slowly but surely. We certainly see this at VMware, and what they're asking for is, and in an ideal state, and we talk about this quite a bit, IT can be an enabler rather than an obstructionist, right? Instead of being the sort of arbiter and the entity that's always saying, no, you can't use Box.net, you have to use this other thing, or no, you can't use Salesforce, we have Siebel. Instead, they can create an environment where, for applications that merit it, people can make a choice around potentially a variety of options. And as long as they're interoperable and they fulfill a certain set of enterprise requirements that you can't get away from, security, et cetera, you're good, right? We're still not there yet.
But that actually takes some sort of enlightened, IT teams. I would argue that next week the city will be actually full of people who will come here to hear the message, why don't need to go to the cloud? Tell me a good excuse, Oracle and so on, why, and what can we do actually to stay and control our customers? Because IT was always about control and complexity. And I would actually argue that, we can talk about Microsoft and so on, but from some perspective, those IT teams may be the biggest competition to the cloud. That, they still don't get it and they see it as their kind of, enemy of what they do internally.
They're like the guys on the assembly line that are worried about all the robots coming
exactly.
in.
Yeah, that's what's happening all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I think it's a great point of.
There's still people on assembly lines, and they now tell the robots what to do. So.
Yeah.
Fewer of them.
And we like
there are fewer of them. So that is true, right?
Yes.
There
Yep,
might
absolutely.
be. It might be that IT as an organization changes dramatically, and there are fewer sort of general purpose.
That's an interesting
IT.
question for all of you. I mean, do IT organizations everywhere shrink because of the cloud?
Well, I think
the skill set changes.
I think they change, and that's what we were talking about earlier on the CIO panel. Is how actually do we go from, if you think about where IT had to spend their time previously, right? The vast majority of the time just was going into maintaining these systems. So whether that was an email server that now can be replaced by Google Apps, or whether that was on-premise business intelligence, or whether that was CRM that had to have lots of servers and infrastructure around it. Once that can move to the cloud, then you've kind of got the sort of low common denominator types of things that are solved for. And how do you move up the stack that can actually create, really, really meaningful business value? So how do I actually do BI on top of my CRM so I can see who my most important customers are? How do I actually integrate, my email and my collaboration tools so I can have those be a lot more seamlessly interacting? And these are the kinds of things that we never got to in the previous area of the enterprise, because we spent all of our time just working on the core system. So that's, I think, the value of when all of these technologies come together and they all are sort of interoperable, is we get to actually do really innovative things with our technology. Last thing I just want to say on the freemium piece, though.
Yes.
The really important thing about freemium is it does a couple things from a market standpoint. It keeps the incumbents honest, because it means that the innovation that we're doing that can be adopted by end users and individuals in organizations.
You win on the merits, right?
Right. What's that?
You win on the merits.
You win on the merits of the application. It really shows, it'll begin to highlight the stark differences between the value propositions. And freemium doesn't have to be antithetical to the CIO or IT model. I mean, in fact, the enterprise freemium model is sort of the best mergence. So if you look at something like a Yammer or a Box, where we want adoption by end users, but then we're still going to be able to integrate and sell to and be able to be serviced in large organizations. And that's sort of the ideal kind of functionality. Or in Google Apps case, I mean, if you think about it, if Gmail didn't exist, we would all be thinking that Exchange and Outlook was just it was the past, it was the present, it was the future of all things email, and that's not a really great reality. And so Gmail kind of had to come out and push the limits from a free standpoint first to be able to do that, and then it made its way in the enterprise. So we think it's actually pretty important. And then final thing is, sorry.
It's your show, man.
We'll give you an extra one.
All right, sorry, I'll just cover it.
Cool, we can stand up.
We can just shut down. Do you want me? Can I get a presentation here? Can I get some slides?
Thank you.
The only final thing that I just want to say, which is really cool, is that, so Roman, let me ask you a question. How many businesses that would never in the whole world have ever implemented like BI are they able to now have access to this technology?
Oh, I would say we have 2,500 customers, and most of those 2,500 would never even think about BI. They would always go to Excel.
Because it was cost prohibitive.
Yeah, exactly. The complexity,
and hard to use, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So that's the 10x advantage is that instead of selling to the Fortune 1,000, we're selling to the Fortune 100,000 or the Fortune 500,000. So everybody that has a need for this technology is able to finally implement it because it's not cost prohibitive. Time to market is instant, and it all works together.
One of the things I like about this freemium model is that it's opened up IT's eyes. And so in many ways, there's been a lot of risk aversion. And there's a sort of subjective nature to applications. I like this one, I like that one. Well, this one's cheaper, let's just roll it out and make sure it's safe. The freemium model is basically giving them data to say, how many people do we have on that application? Are you kidding me? I've got 500 people in my organization I had no idea about using this thing. So I can't ignore that any longer. And I think that's the thing where the users are speaking with their feet, and it's too hard to ignore anymore. And so that's given IT a reason to react, and it's shifting their focus from maybe risk aversion to, well, if this is really driving productivity in my organization, maybe I can play a part in this and be looked at as a hero instead of always being the kind of wet blanket in the room.
That said, if the freemium choices that people are making don't stand up to the, let's say, regulatory scrutiny that IT has to, for perfectly understandable reasons, adhere to, then it's a bummer that the user is delighted on something that is ultimately not secure, not manageable, or not able to be deployed successfully within an enterprise at any scale. And that's the real bargain is how do you effectively cater to end user adoption and get people really excited about a product while still doing the sort of grown-up suit-wearing type things that are not as sexy, that involve enterprise security, data center, policy audits, et cetera, et cetera. Those things are equally important, and without both of them, you're still going to have this. You're going to appeal to the worst tendency of IT, which is to simply say, hey, guess what? We're going to start blocking domains at the firewall, and we're going to start, basically implementing policies that limit.
Have you seen that happen for IT?
I have.
IT organizations?
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's specific domains, specific ports. They know certain clients, file sync clients that, they don't want people using external, file services, et cetera. They just decide to, take the sledgehammer approach and block them at the gate, just like they do Facebook and any other sort of thing that they don't think is legit for them.
Yeah, and maybe the technology is not on Gartner's Magic Quadrant, which is how IT usually picks technologies. Going to analysts these days, they can just go in and let's assume that this is enterprise freemium. So there is security, there is all of the good abilities. Then what's the role of the kind of industry analyst? If any employee can go and evaluate software and actually see the results, and they don't need to
it's a conspiracy. It's the analysts that are blocking this whole thing. Now, I hadn't figured it out.
Have you seen? I'm curious, Roman. I mean, you mentioned that you're selling into customers who couldn't afford BI and would be using those tools. Can you think of examples of customers whose businesses have really fundamentally changed because of cloud technologies? And I mean, I open that up to all of you.
Yeah, exactly. So we have, the best example, we work with a small Boston-based or medium-sized Boston-based company called Gazelle. They are in e-commerce. If you have old iPhone 4 and you want to get iPhone 5, go to Gazelle, and they will actually buy it from you and sell it to somebody else, and you can buy iPhone 5. But the company is relatively small, but they have to have extremely good controls over the cost and processes and so on. So they use GoodData across the whole company in every single step of the process, and they would not be able to do it without BI, even though it's a 90-person company that definitely when they started had no money to go and buy Oracle or SAP or something like that.
Right.
Well, do you mind if I do one quick thing? Maybe we could see a show of hands for anybody who's, any company who's implemented a cloud technology that otherwise would have been like so low on the list just because of time and energy, but has actually become kind of game-changing for their business. So, okay. Would expect a little more, but wait, sure. One more time. Now think about it for a couple seconds.
I think he means box.
Yeah, I think he means box, guys. This is what we're doing. We'll kick you under the table. Okay, one more time.
That was a trick question. You all failed.
No.
Give us back those tablets.
No tablets.
All right, let's
for
come
you.
back.
Well,
We'll collect them at the door.
I'll share our own example. At Box, we implement technologies all the time that normally would have been, if we had to implement a server, a network, a new kind of set of settings on our firewall, hook it all up, we would never have done that. And because it's a cloud-delivered solution, we're able to kind of go to market much faster. So that's everything from who we use for our billing subscription service to what we use for customer intelligence. These are all things that are services we would never have implemented in an on-premise world that now we can turn on overnight and it just lights up.
Right. When you all look at the big incumbent players who you're up against, what is your biggest challenge in gaining market share? Scott?
Awareness.
Yeah, awareness.
I mean, everyone knows Google. People don't know.
I was going to say, I think
Google,
awareness of Google
You
is
guys
pretty
have like
good.
a homepage that has the most traffic.
It's a verb now.
People
I've
don't
heard.
know that Google does business solutions other than ads. So I think that's still, after 4 years out in the market, that's still a big issue for us. Clearly, some of our big competitors are now putting cloud advertising, and therefore all the press writes and always puts our names together. So that is changing with a lot of the kind of later stage of the market. But awareness is just a really big one. People, what is it? What does it mean to me? All the things that our first 4 million customers went through to understand the data governance and all that good stuff, which is important. But there's hundreds of millions of more businesses out there. So
Can you just have like Larry Page like post on people's Google Plus page and just be like, hey, we do business apps now, kind of thing?
something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Front page,
Yeah.
I feel lucky.
Yeah,
Always goes to Google Ads.
Right.
Always.
That'd be pretty good.
Javier?
Ours is awareness actually as well, and it's awareness. It's a kind of a different variation, or actually maybe it's a similar problem. People know VMware as an infrastructure software company, and our virtualization solution stands head and shoulders above everybody else's, and is the market leader, and has been and will hopefully continue to be. But VMware has changed quite a bit in the last, certainly in the last 2 years since I've been there, and become a company that is now seizing the opportunity to be a transformative player for the enterprise IT world and for IT as a whole, by saying, okay, yeah, so virtualization transformed the way people look at servers. We now are on to 2 more missions, one which is to change the way people look at developing applications, and that's actually how I got to VMware, through the acquisition of my company, and making it easier for people to develop and manage applications that leverage the cloud. And then now beyond that is, well, what about actual end user applications? How can we help people, how can we deliver the same benefit that we gave to the IT guy, who now doesn't look at physical servers the same way again, because he knows that provisioning a machine no longer requires cabling and screws on a rack and everything else, and instead could be just as simple as pressing a button. How do we deliver similar benefits to a knowledge worker that's just trying to author a document collaboratively with 4 or 5 other people? And that involves both being a good ecosystem lighthouse partner for folks like Box and Google and others, as well as delivering our own application solutions. And all of those last 2 things are new areas for us that people don't know us for. I usually refer to us as highly experienced expert plumbers that are trying to get into the interior decorating business. So in that journey, there's a lot of awareness challenges.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a plumber as well, so I don't know anything about applications. I just hang out with guys like this and pretend.
So Scott, I'm guessing
I'm
awareness
not an
is
interior
not
decorator,
sales
so.
force.
Yeah.
Well, no, when
Mark
it
is
comes
pretty good on awareness.
when it comes to CRM and Salesforce automation, obviously we've got all the awareness we need there. But Salesforce is really a platform that can do so much more, and it's one of the reasons why we're here today, to talk about how open we are and how we integrate with so many other applications. We've got an app exchange with 1,200 applications on it, and we're delivering value to all different parts of the organization, whether it's sales, marketing, HR, and really IT. We have a platform where you can build apps on. And so I think it's education. It's just how powerful our platform can be and how well it works with all these other cloud applications that are out there.
So we're running out of time here, and I wanted to pose a question to each of you, and it's a yes or no question, and you can elaborate a little if you want. But the way that the cloud and business web software is evolving, there are a lot of players. It's a fairly fragmented market. Whereas if you look at the old market of software, it's dominated by just a few players who own a remarkable amount of market share. And let's say 10 years, I'll say 15 years out, do you think that there will be one dominant player in this market, as dominant as you could say Oracle is?
And just remember whose panel you're on, okay?
Yes,
Just think about it for a second before you say anything.
or is it different this
Let's
time
see
around?
if
Who gave you free lunch?
3 out of the 5
what
panelists
shape
here
is
can be
gonna be,
honest
you
in
know?
their answer.
Yes, I'm
This
curious.
Yes, this is a very
Scott, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, I think, I'll kind of echo what I said before. I think it's going to be different this time around, in part because the old model was very much locked in. And that worked because there weren't a lot of options, and we all got railroaded for a long time. And I don't think that exists today. So there's a lot more choice. There's a lot more openness, as we've been talking about. And so I think it's just different from that perspective. It's going to be, may the best applications, may the best technology win, and the technologies that enable the most productivity for organizations, they're going to get chosen. And I think that's the way it should be. It's sort of meritocracy based.
That's a very diplomatic answer. Javier, to you.
Yes, I think that there won't be as many players as there are today. And the simple answer is that even in a world where openness and choice is the order of the day, and where companies truly deliver on the idea that they want to start by delighting end users and delivering things that people love to use, the fact is that the process of procuring and kind of digesting these types of technology decisions at an enterprise level, for sure. So I'm talking strictly about very large companies, which I assume will continue to exist over the next 10 years unless we do something really, really stupid, will continue to be driven by a smaller subset of the broader marketplace, and that smaller subset, either through acquisition or maybe effective partnership, will be the primary touch point with a lot of these companies. And so the question is, are they going to be the same people that are there at that table today, the SAPs and the Oracles and the IBMs of the world? Maybe, maybe not. These companies aren't, for all their disparaging of the cloud or embracing it or wherever they might sit on that, they're not sitting around saying, gee, what's Box and all these other very exciting and innovative companies, what are they going to do? Let's just sit and watch and wait and sort of talk crap about them in the sidelines and then hope to buy them later. They're not sitting around and waiting for this. So it will probably continue to be something that's dominated by not as many players as you think.
Okay, not a yes or no answer, but okay.
More than yes.
Yeah. I think this is web, and on the web, winner takes all. So there is going to be very small number of very large companies, but those companies will be different. I don't believe that SAPs and so on of the world can actually innovate, and I think that, as somebody said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So as much they have strategies to go to the cloud, they have they don't have the cultures.
So I guess I disagree. I feel like it's going to be more like the music market. There are certainly big hits and big stars with massive distribution, and everyone can hum that song. But I think that with the types of things we're talking about today, interoperability, APIs, ease of use, ease of distribution, I think we're going to have much more of a music market style choice of software.
Interesting.
Boom.
Also Google Apple.
That was good. I think I'm somewhere in between, so it's not a yes or a no, but I think what we don't know yet is, so if you think about consumer technology and how often the leadership changes and sort of what is the hot application, or what, one day it's Airbnb, the next day it's sort of hot or not, the next, it's like if you think about the amount of change that has happened. But that was sort of the wrong order of events.
Switching costs there, to be fair.
Yeah, a lot of switching costs for hot or not to Airbnb. I don't know why that was. I don't know why I'm thinking that. But the amount of sort of volatility in that space from kind of what's going on, it actually makes sense because it's entirely consistent with the paradigm of I just go to a web browser, I type in a URL, and instantly I have this new service. And we're all delivering technology that has that level of low friction to it. So what's going to happen is you're going to have the leadership positions will be harder to maintain. You will have to do, obviously, consolidation, just because that's a natural way that over time you want to be able to kind of create market cap and be able to deliver kind of shareholder returns, and also be able to have a good kind of integrated experience for customers. But I think the sort of the revolutions of innovation are going to increase dramatically, and that's going to keep people on their toes a lot more. I don't think you're going to see like a long tail of 100,000 applications, right? But you probably will see you'd see hundreds of applications that people are kind of intermixing, and you'll still have sort of best of class applications in any given category. But I think it's going to be a lot more competitive, and I think customers are going to benefit dramatically because of the innovation you're going to be able to get, right? And just even as we're seeing the tablet wars, right? So the sort of, you've got a lot of innovation happening that comes from Apple, and then Android's able to sort of leapfrog, and they kind of go back and forth. And we've never seen that in enterprise software because Microsoft sort of
That's
just
such a pace. It's really
right.
remarkable.
I mean,
Yeah.
every 6 months there's a new kind of a new version out of one of these things, and that didn't exist in enterprise software for forever, pretty much. And you're going to get the same level of sort of leapfrogging, I think, in this space, and customers stand to. Certainly there's going to be a lot more turnover to deal with that you're going to have to kind of face, but you're going to get a lot more innovation because of it.
Great, and that's where we end. Thanks very much to all of you for joining us today. And
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.